All right, man. Episode 30 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. It's 11:11 a.m. Make a wish. It's 10/22/2022. Halloween is sneaking up on us like a ghoul. It'll be here before we know it. And from there, we'll transition into the wintry feelings of the rest of the year. We already have a wee bit of a chill out there. The leaves are looking beautiful, oranges and yellows, with the sun illuminating behind them. It's truly picturesque, and I hope you all take the opportunity, if you have the opportunity, to take in the beautiful nature around you, man. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you all have been working hard this week. I know I have. It's been a very productive week. Reading has been back on track after some slacking off on my part. Writing has taken a wee bit of a hit, but is back on track, it seems, and good material is being put down on paper. There's plenty to do. There is always so much to do that oftentimes it can feel overwhelming, but all that matters is that we stay strong and that we focus on our dreams and our paths, man, of what we want to do with our time, and not waste it on meaningless and banal social interactions that ultimately lead to nothing, that waste your time and take away your life. I know I ain't doing any of that nonsense, man. Somebody says, hey, let's go out. Let's do this. Well, what are we going to gain from that? I don't know. We'll just go ahead and sit around and do nothing. All right, man, you go ahead and do that. I'm going to be over here working, taking in some art. I had no time for that nonsense, man. No time at all. 2022, man, is coming to something of a new beginning in terms of the quality of films that are being released. Now, there's quality films being released all year round, but with the Academy Awards in early 2023, in the final act of 2022, which I say begins in November and December, we're starting to get some real quality films coming out. Next week, off to see the new Park Chan-wook film Decision to Leave, as well as the new Cate Blanchett film Tar. I'm not sure who directed that. And I had mentioned before the film I'm looking forward to the most. The Banshees of Inisherin will be seen on November 4th. I'm going to try to make the time to rewatch Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, because I have already seen In Bruges a number of times, and I've mentioned before it being one of my favorite films, and Seven Psychopaths I've also seen a number of times, which is a solid film as well. Big fan of that one. But Three Billboards I had only seen once theatrically, and I bought the Blu-ray and have not revisited it since. So, for the sake of taking in another one of McDonough's work, it will be watched before The Banshees of Inisherin. You guys been hearing about that Terrifier 2 news? Jeez Louise, man. If you ever want an inspirational story to get your ass off the ground, man, and to get to work, look at that, man. That film has been doing incredibly well. That is an independent horror film that I admittedly have not seen, and it's not a priority. It's not really a film that interests me all that well, but it's a film that was done. I believe it was. I don't know if this one was done through a Kickstarter or not. I think maybe the first film was. I don't actually remember. But either way, it's definitely a ground up kind of film that has been making headlines through its popularity. It has. It was originally playing one night in a handful of cinemas throughout the country, and it was so popular they expanded it, and now has a current small theatrical run that is wide, and my cinema is now showing it. And this is a film that I have not seen, but from the hearings of it that I've been hearing, it's very gruesome and very violent, and it's a film that a filmmaker wanted to make. He wanted to entertain, and he went out there and he did it. I had seen All Hallows Eve, which was an anthology film that I don't remember when that came out, but the character of Art the Clown, who is the star of Terrifier and Terrifier 2, has a segment in that film that was, to my knowledge, previously filmed. And then the first Terrifier came out in, I don't remember when, but I hadn't seen that film. And then this came out, and it's doing incredible, man. And you know what, man? They deserve all the success they get, man. Because these are people who didn't sit around and talk about doing something. They went ahead and they did it. And look where it got them, man. It's made, what, $2 million so far? Jeez Louise, man. Good for them. They deserve all the money they can get out of that from the hard-earned effort. The effort and time they put into that film, man. It's truly inspirational. And, man, you look at that top 10 box office, thanks in there along the titans of the other studio titans. Big films with big casts and everything fancy. But here it is. Terrifier 2. So we raise a glass. I have my mug right here with coffee, but I'm going to raise it anyways and have a sip to the success of Terrifier 2. Wish them all the best. And to those who have enjoyed it, I hope you got to see it theatrically. So cheers to that film and cheers to everyone involved. I only mention that because I've been seeing it pop up, and a few acquaintances who I have crossed paths with previously in the past have been involved with that film. Either, I don't know if they were acting in the film or they were part of the crew. Either way, they had worked on the film, and on Instagram they've been posting about the success of it, and it is absolutely inspirational. People can sit back and say, "Oh, this film, anyone could have made this film. This film sucks. Anyone could have done this." So hey, man, why didn't you make it? I love when people say, "Oh, the Blair Witch Project. Oh, anyone could have made that film. Anyone could, man." And they did. Eduardo Sanchez and the other fellow whose name I'm blanking on. I'm gonna look that up because I definitely don't want to forget his name. They both deserve the recognition they deserve for that terrific film. Eduardo Sanchez, Daniel Myrick, man, they went out there and they did it, and hey, man, now it's a staple of cinema, of horror cinema, of 90s films, of independent filmmaking, whether you like or dislike it, man, they went out and they did it. They, instead of sitting around and talk about it, they did it, and they deserve all the success they can get, man. With that said, I'm going to talk about one of the best films I've seen this year that has not gotten a whole lot of talk, and it is crazy because I saw this film last week theatrically about a couple hours after I recorded the last episode, and it is already out of theaters, and it's a real shame. And at the end of the year, I'm going to make not a top 10 video, but a list video, a 10 film list of films that came out this year that may have gotten missed, but do not deserve to be missed, because there will be some terrific films to come out this year that will get plenty of traction and talk. I'm sure Banshees of Inisherin and Decision to Leave and Tar will make many lists, but I have seen quite a number of films this year. Like I had said previously, a film like Montana Story that has gotten such a quiet release, and I know none of my acquaintances who have seen the film and or have even heard of the film, and that is such a shame. And this is another film that I really hope is not forgotten about. I'm going to have another sip of coffee. My throat's a little dry, and we're going to go ahead and talk right into it. I try to keep a constant rhythm of noise, so there's not a whole lot of silence, so I apologize if I do have to take occasional breaks. I don't want to keep pausing and starting, but here's the problem, what I was saying before when it comes to theatrical new films that get put out here. This film is listed as 2021. It was released in France of 2021, so it's been out for a year. Now, I saw this film. It just got a release here on September 9th, and I saw it last weekend. So here's the problem, man, is that when I'm talking about the best films of 2022, I can't even put this film on a list, because technically, if we go by my rules, as I do with my top 10 year videos, which, by the way, oh, I apologize, man. Jeez Louise. 2018 top 10 will be coming on November 1st. But it's a shame because this film, I'm going to put, at the end of the year, I will put films like this on the list because it cannot be forgotten, and it should not be, well, that was last year, so I can't talk about it, and I can't bring it up again. I will bring it up again because this film blew me away, and I do not want to choose favorites of the year. But if I was making a top 10 list right now, this would be almost this might may be my favorite film of the year so far. I really don't know. It's hard to rank them because you get different feelings from different films and different. You cannot compare films in that regard. It is completely ridiculous and completely unacceptable. But one more sip of coffee, we're going to get right into it. The film, directed by Matthew Amalric, who I think many people might know primarily as an actor. He was in the masterpiece that is The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. But American audiences would probably know him as the villain from Quantum of Solace. He was in apologies, the Grand Budapest Hotel. It says he was in Sound of Metal as well. I don't remember him in that film, but if you look him up, you're gonna go, "Oh, I've seen that guy, man. I've seen him in a handful of stuff." And I don't know if I've seen any of his previous films or not that he's directed. I'm looking here, and no, he's been directing for quite a while, man. And I have not seen anything that he's done, which is a shame because after watching this, I'm gonna have to. This is the new Vicky Krieps film, Hold Me Tight. This also stars. Now, she is the biggest actor in the film. The husband I was not familiar with. I believe it's Ari Falter. I don't know how to say his name, and there's no pictures on here. This was a film that it was very. I saw the trailer, and I tried to watch any trailers, and it was very mysterious. The trailer, I got very not a real sense of the plot, and I was like, okay, that's better, man, because I don't entirely know what I'm getting into, and that's fantastic because I'm going to be surprised by the actions as I'm watching the film, man. And I'm about 30 minutes or so in, and the way it's edited, I'm watching, going, okay, what there's something surreal going on here. Characters are having conversations in completely different settings. You have a character in a car who is talking and having a conversation with another character who's in a kitchen somewhere else, and at first you try to make sense of it. You go, is there something supernatural or spiritual going on here? And maybe there is, maybe there isn't, I don't know, but you eventually sit there and you go, okay, this film is moving along at such a good pace and is so hypnotic and fascinating that I'm just going to go along for the ride and see where it takes me. And eventually you allow yourself to be immersed by the film, and you no longer question the reality of these conversations happening, these parallels happening in different geographical locations. And the film uses quite a lot of them. We have Vicky Krieps' character, who people may remember from the masterpiece Phantom Thread, as well as maybe more mainstream audiences would remember her from the film Old, and she was also in Bergman Island, and she has a new film out that I must see. I must see soon. She is quickly becoming one of my favorite actors working, and is such a total beauty, unlike many others. But her performance in the film she seemingly has run away from her family, her husband, and her two young children, and the children ask where she's gone, and the husband he is at a crossroads where he does not entirely know how to react to the situation, and we're jumping back and forth, and we don't entirely dislike her as a character because she is not a malicious person. She's not an evil person. We just see her going through different experiences and different interactions with people. And like I was saying before, as an audience member, we sit there and we go, okay, I'm just going to go along with this because the film is so well done. And the problem with a film like this is that when you watch the trailer, which I don't think you should, unfortunately, when I go to these cinemas and I see trailers, I just have to, I'm not going to get up and leave. I'm going to sit there because even yesterday, I've been looking forward to seeing the new Park Chan-wook film, Decision to Leave, for months and months since it got announced. And I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see that. I don't know what it's about, but I can't wait. And I eventually saw the trailer and I was like, oh man, but that's all right. And it looks amazing. So, I mean, there's no surprise there, but sometimes you don't want to be told. But when it comes to watching this film, if I'm not talking, the chair sure is squeaking. Jeez Louise, man. But you watch this film and you're going along, and then you can't really talk about it's less of a reveal because it's not exactly a reveal. It's more about the overall point of the film, and that's where we get into the third act. When it's something that I didn't quite. When I initially, when the credits came up, it took me a little. It took me a minute to fully grasp what I had just seen, and I guess maybe even before the credits came out. But at the very end is where I had a question, and then I thought about it, and I went, "Oh man, that's what the film is about." And that's when it hit me, man. That's when it put the entire film on a whole new echelon of quality. It's a film about. I can't even talk about it because if I do, you're gonna get an idea of what's going on in the film, and I think. It's not what you think the film is. You may have ideas about a conclusion, and it's really not that. It's a film that is very quiet, is very spiritual. It's non the narrative is non-linear. We're jumping at different points in time. But we're following Vicky Krieps' character, who also may be jumping at different points in time, and her different moods and reactions. And ultimately, we're asking ourselves, what exactly is the relationship here? What is the connection between these characters? And when we get there, man, I tell you, I had to kill time before the second film I saw that day. I sat across the street eating a slice of pizza, reading my book, and I just could not get this film out of my head. It was this. I walked out of this film and I said, "Wow, man, this is a piece of art that could only be made through the power of film." It's masterful filmmaking, man. The film has a dreamlike quality that puts you at the center of it. And when it's all done, you feel like you step out of the cinema back into the real world. You feel like it. You feel like you've been released from a trance, man. This is just a total beautiful film, and I don't want to hype this one up. It's tricky to recommend films like this because certain films that are a little more spiritual and are a little more loose in terms of filmmaking, it's hard to recommend because you don't want to hype someone up and then they go, I got what the film was doing, man, but it did not work for me. It's not a confusing film ultimately, but it is a film that leaves you with a specific feeling and emotion that you're either going to be on board with or not. That is trickier to recommend. So I can only give my opinion on the film, as I only will. I do not care about any kind of general consensus, as I talked about recently a couple weeks ago with general reactions to films that people will trash and go, "Oh, this film was terrible." It's like, well, that's your right, man. That's your opinion, but I have no interest in listening to it, man. In terms of certain reactions that are gross and drastic. But if you want to hear more about that, I talked about that a few episodes ago, talking about the negative reaction to Blonde I was seeing and the annoyance of that. But this just was an absolute incredible film, and it's one of the very best that I've seen this year. And I'm gonna keep an eye out for when this gets released because I have no idea. I mean, truthfully, if you really want to watch it, I'm sure it's out there already. If this was a film that got released last year, I'm not saying that you should, go online and watch it illegally. But certain times, we all have different restrictions on what financially we can put into our entertainment and our art to gain. It's totally your call, but I definitely just wanted to highlight this film because I don't want this to be lost in the myriad of other films that will be probably put up on a pedestal for the rest of the year. I just feel like this film will hit with a certain kind of person, and I was a certain kind of person. This is totally a me film, and I love this film, man. I cannot say enough positive things about it. Yeah, I just can't say enough good things, man. Definitely keep an eye out on this if you really like slow, spiritual, dreamlike films. I'm going to finish off my coffee here. We're going to talk about another film I saw just yesterday. Ooh, that coffee got cold. Oh, man. God, that was cold coffee, man. Oh, no thank you. I'm going to talk about the Palme d'Or winner, Triangle of Sadness. This has been getting a lot of talk. Like I said, it won the Palme d'Or, and this was the director, whose name is Ruben Östlund, who I think I don't know what he is. Is he Norwegian or Danish? He is Swedish. That's right, he's Swedish, and has made two big films. He made Force Majeure, which I have seen, which is a pretty good film. And he also recently, in 2017, I say recently, but that's 2017, did the film The Square, which I still haven't seen. I'm going to actually have to make an effort to watch that. And like I said, I liked Force Majeure. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Um, and this was another film that I was looking forward to, and unfortunately saw the trailer, and the trailer was great. And this film is definitely it's more of a overt comedy, I would say. It's a film where the film is so enjoyable that you look past the very what I feel is very simple ideas of the rich and the downfall of them. You know, I want to get into the plot essentially. It's split into three parts, and I'm not going to talk about part three. Unfortunately, I do think they give a little bit of a little bit away in the trailer, which I really not exactly away, but there's definitely a hint at something that I kind of wish didn't. But we follow initially these two characters, a boy and a girl. One is an influencer on Instagram, one of those people who takes a million photos of themselves and has to, pose for the internet and stuff. And another guy who's a male model. Both of them did a fantastic job. Harris Dickinson and Charlby Dean, I believe is her name. I believe is how you say her name. They were both absolutely fantastic in the film. I just loved both those characters. They play Carl and Yaya, and they're having a bit of a, they're very. Carl's a little more down to earth. There's a really terrific back and forth they have at a restaurant that was, you really feel for Carl in that situation. But eventually they decide. I think they briefly say that Yaya was able to get a ticket on this very high end $250 million yacht where you have all these higher up people, very fancy people. The crew is very much like, never say no to the customers. You always have to say yes, including a great, a really enjoyable sequence where you have one of the characters, Alicia, played by Alicia Erickson, involving a jacuzzi that I won't say, but and then you have other characters, other interactions in the film, and like I was saying before, it's a very listen, man. If you're gonna walk out of this film and miss the message of the film, man, I think you might need to get some glasses because it's very obvious what it's saying about the rich being snobby and the poor, and the poor knowing how to they're more knowledgeable, and in times of crisis they know what to do. And but the film is so funny and enjoyable. There's a whole, and it goes for the grotesque, which normally I find can be oftentimes very cheap. A lot of visual gags going, that's very gross out humor, but the film does that. When the film does that, it just goes completely wild, man, and it gets so hilarious and over the top, and I don't want to give the film away. I think that the part two in the film is part one. Part two, I think, is my favorite. It is the strongest stuff, but part one is very great as well. I think part one has better dialogue and has better interactions between the two characters, but when it comes to all the stuff on the yacht, oh my gosh, man, it was great. The one character in the film who I need to look up here while I'm talking. I'm going to try to look him up. When he is somebody who sells fertilizer, and he has a great interaction. He has probably one of my favorite sequences in the film is he has a great back and forth with Woody Harrelson's character, and he's a Russian socialist, and Woody Harrelson is an American communist, and they have such a great back and forth. And man, I was enjoying this so much. Now, where it does lose me a little bit, the film is 2.5 hours, which is okay. I can confidently say I didn't feel the runtime on this. When it gets into part three, that's when I think the film is still very enjoyable and never boring, but I find the least interesting. It's definitely the most obvious in the parallels of part two, and especially where it goes to. But I think with part two and three, the difference is that with the film is light on plot. But that's okay, because in part two, these interactions and this dialogue and the over-the-topness is so enjoyable that when it keeps going seemingly aimless at times, just these interactions between the employees and the customers and the couple in the film, Carl and Yaya, you enjoy it so much. I think part three is where I started to feel the aimlessness a bit. I should also say the actor before is Dimitri, played by Zalto Burek, who I don't think I'm familiar. Oh my gosh, man, he was in the Pusher films. Oh, geez Louise, man. Oh, man. I did not know that was him. Oh, man. man, that is cool, man. Wow, dude, of course it's him. Oh my gosh, man, that is cool. Oh, I love those films, man, and it hit me like a ton of bricks right now. You're hearing it live, man, live for the first time, pre-recorded. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's probably why I liked him so much in the film. That's fantastic. But what I was saying before is that in part three, they're still very funny, but some of the situations I do feel like um, go on a little bit. And at a certain point, I would say in the last 10 to 15 minutes, it becomes a little predictable into where it's going to go. At a certain point, when certain characters interact, you're kind of just waiting for a ball to drop, essentially, in terms of not necessarily an event, but sort of where the film's ultimate conclusion is. But I actually really like the final shot of the final. There's a tracking shot at the end of the film that I actually thought was really terrific. Overall, man, I think this is one that's going to get a lot of talk. I've already seen people give it, incredibly high praises. Sean Baker, who is one of my favorite artists working right now, one of my favorite filmmakers working, when he saw the film, he said immediately it was his favorite film of the century, which I think is you know, it's definitely whenever I hear that, I don't think twice about it, because I think that's very much a hyperbole. But more so than that, I trust his film opinion a lot. So if he has higher opinions on this film, on a film, I am more likely to seek it out. And this is one that will get expansion. We'll probably get some Academy Award talk. I don't know if this is exactly. I don't know if this is considered a foreign film or not. I mean, it's almost entirely in English, but I don't know what the Academy's qualifications are for that. But all the performances great around. No one outshines each other. Everyone does a great job, and this was just such an enjoyable film that I think on a second viewing, I'll probably warm up to the third part a little bit more. But it's still greatly done as well, and yeah, really terrific film. I think this is one that a lot of people are aware of because it won the Palme d'Or, and should be definitely sought out if you have the opportunity. So, some really great new releases this year. Hold Me Tight and Triangle of Sadness are just a great time. This is where we are wrapping up to the end of the episode. There's so much to get done today. We're going to just do it 1 minute at a time, man. We're not going to waste the day. We're going to go out there. We're going to be productive. We're going to get the work done, because I definitely have plenty of work to get done. It's never ending, man, but that's what we're living for, accomplishment, reward. We have to put in the hard work and effort to get a great reward, man. It's not instantaneous. Everybody wants the end results, but they don't want to do the work. Hope you guys are using your time wisely to do what you want to do, whether that be with any kind of social interaction, or working, or enjoying, or entertainment, anything you want to do, man. Just don't waste your time, and don't, when you look back on the end of the day, make sure you made it one of something that you wanted to do. All right, man. Planning to get done, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Thanks for listening. Be back next week, and enjoy this beautiful day if you have the opportunity to.